How good is China's Air Force? The Pentagon's multi-billion-dollar investment in advanced warplanes, weapons systems, satellites and aircraft carriers has made air power a central part of America's global projection of military might. However, China's People's Liberation Army, PLA, is rapidly modernizing, and military leaders and analysts say that Washington may no longer be able to always rely on its air superiority. Speaking at an Air Force Association conference last month, General Charles Brown, Jr., Chief of Staff of the Air Force, said the PLA had what he called the largest aviation forces in the Pacific and had developed them underneath our nose. Brown predicted China could overcome U.S. air superiority by 2035. At the same event, Lieutenant General S. Clinton Hynot, a Deputy Chief of Staff, warned that the U.S. was behind in a few important areas. "We're behind now. This is not a tomorrow problem. This is a today." Hynot told reporters that as somebody who was aware of the evidence at all classification levels, he believed that China had caught up with the U.S. air power advancements, and he warned the light is blinking red. China sent almost 150 warplanes, including its most advanced J-16 fighter jets and H-6 bombers, into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or IDIZ, in a complex demonstration of its military might. They're putting together packages of fighter aircraft, the J-16 in particular, flown in large numbers. And that's a relatively new capability, said Eric Higginbottom, a principal research scientist at MIT's Center for International Studies. They're putting complete packages together. They're also sending anti-submarine warfare aircraft up. So, they're showing a lot. According to an article published on the U.S. Air Force's official website, Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall mentioned China 27 times in his closely watched address to the IFA conference last month. In comparison, he mentioned Russia once and Afghanistan 3 times. Kendall, the top civilian leader of the USAF, also pledged in August to develop more leading technologies that scare China. Emboldened by China's newly gained air might, Wang Wei, a senior PLA Air Force official, responded last month to Kendall's Scare China comment by inviting the USAF to meet in the sky, a foreign colleague claimed recently to make the Chinese Air Force feel scared. "Well, as long as you are not scared, let us meet in the cloud." China's flights near Taiwan last week demonstrate the improving capabilities of the PLF. Christina Garofalo, an associate policy researcher at the RAND Corporation, wrote in an email to VOA that when combined with China ground-based air defense forces, these growing capabilities will increase the complexity of operations in the air domain in the Indo-Pacific. Timothy Heath, a senior defense researcher at the RAND Corporation, said that while the PLF still lags the USAF in technological capabilities and warfighting prowess, its large numbers of land-based fighters pose a threat to any U.S. effort to intervene in a fight over Taiwan. He told VOA that because of its proximity to Taiwan, the PLA can use many complementary weapons, such as surface-to-air missiles and anti-ship ballistic missiles, to attack U.S. carriers, air bases and aircraft. This counter-intervention capability could help even the odds for the PLA Air Force in a major fight near Taiwan. Analysts also said distance would be a factor in any air warfare in the Pacific. Taiwan is just 161 kilometers from China's coast, compared with more than 700 kilometers from U.S. air bases in Okinawa, Japan, and more than 2,700 kilometers from Guam. The U.S. may gain short-term control of the air over Taiwan, but it's too distant to do this for more than short time periods, such as an hour or two, Peter Layton, a visiting fellow at Griffith Asia Institute in Brisbane, Australia, told VOA. In an interview last month with Air Force Times, Kendall said it was an assumption that the U.S. was the dominant power. "We're the dominant military power until you get within about 1,000 miles, 1,610 kilometers, of China, and that starts to change," he said. According to Higginbottom of MIT, a specialist in Asian security issues, less than 15% of U.S. air inventories are in the Western Pacific, and the U.S. does not have all its aircraft flying around the clock. The difference is probably that China can challenge you at their superiority locally and for certain periods of time. He said in a telephone interview with VOA. calling China an apex peer adversary with vast capabilities in electromagnetic spectrum operations. General Mark Kelly, the commander of Air Combat Command, said last month that the USAF could lose such a fight. He noted that China has already claimed parts of the South China Sea without firing a shot. Supremacy and superiority. Over the years, several studies have found that America may be on track to lose its air superiority over China. The 2016 USAF Air Superiority Study was adamant that the U.S. was on track to lose air superiority in fighting distant wars, Leighton told VOA. The USAF has equipment modernization programs to help address this, like the B-21 and Next Generation Air Dominance Fighter, but these are unlikely to make a real difference until the 2030s. Now, when the air threat is manageable at certain times and places, the objective is air superiority.